Welcome to the Landscape Photography Vlogcast, hosted by myself, Tom Peters, aka the Photo Ninja, all the way up north, Paul Thompson Photography, and truth mate, it's Matt Bishop. We cover all things photography and chat to some of the best photography minds in the business. Put your feet up, the kettle on, and let's jump straight into this week's Vlogcast. Welcome to the podcast, Enrico. How are you been recently?
Well, thank you so much, and special thanks to Mr. Bishop for the invitation, and you guys for having the time to talk with me about photography and about this sad period of time that we are living. And so now, well, you are based in UK, right?
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
So now the restrictions there are, I think, are less serious than before. So you 90% of the population now is vaccinated, or is just
we're getting full vaccination. Yeah,
that's good.
Getting towards it. Yeah, it's doing pretty well. Really.
Yeah, you're better off than us. We're what, 10% vaccinated, Enrico?
No, I don't think so. A little more, maybe
a little more.
15. It's a long way.
We'll get there.
Yeah, I hope to speed it up.
Yeah. So what have you been up to, Enrico? You've been taking advantage of this this time in our life to I don't know, brush up on your horrible post-production skills, or have you been doing?
Yeah, I'm trying. Well, yeah, of course, I'm trying to focus my attention on post-processing and trying to develop new ways to evaluate, to add some value to images that are not exceptional, because right now, I'm honest, my hard drives are almost empty. I no longer have any good raw file to process, so I'm doing a lot of experiments and reprocessing old pictures, but I'm not a huge fan of the reboots. So I'm not publishing the second edit, the third edit, the fourth edit. So I did in the past, but not anymore. Just time to time to make some exercise. And of course, I'm reading about what's happening in the photographic community, and I'm reading art books like this.
Oh,
yeah.
That's where he gets his inspiration from.
Awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, lovely.
I've heard you talk about him before. For those who are listening to the actual podcast and not the YouTube channel, Enrico just held up two books in front of us. One was a book on The Hobbit, and the other one was on
John Howell.
John Howell.
John Howell. Yeah.
This is Albert Bierstadt.
Albert Bierstadt, yeah.
Well, these are some of my favorite books, and of course, during these times, I'm trying to understand more the use of colors and composition, and spending a little more time to try to understand the masters, and then trying to apply some things to my photography. But of course, it's not always easy. Painting is not like taking pictures, and sometimes it's challenging. Sometimes I'm doing just big mistakes, and then I reprocess my images, and many times to be very happy. For example, 2 days ago, I post-processed one image about the Cinnamon. I took that picture in 2016, and I processed the first time in 2018 because I wasn't able at the time to reproduce the proper mood and feeling. And then later, I wasn't very happy about the edition of 2018. I reprocessed once again this year, and now I think that is the right feeling of that image. because when light is so intense, sometimes is more challenging than when the light is not exactly perfect. I mean, you are more linked to reality compared to a situation where you are more free to use your creativity to add special effects or just to reproduce conditions, just brushing the light, compared to a very natural situation that is very good, but the feeling in camera is different compared to what you have saw in the film. I know you know what I mean.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
explained it very, very well. And I remember you saying probably a few years ago now, I think it was an interview you actually did on a podcast with, I think it was on Tripod Photography with Nick Page. Could I be wrong about that?
Yeah, maybe.
About
yeah,
4 years ago.
Yeah.
And when you were talking about your photography and you were stating that you are not a photographer, you're an artist. And when you take an image, you treat that when you open it in post-production as though it's like a blank canvas. And do you think that having sometimes a very strong light makes it difficult for you to treat it as a blank canvas?
Well, yeah, of course it is. Definitely is challenging. And, I think the word artist nowadays, especially on social media, is abused. There are so many artists. And I think most of the time the word artist is confused with the word creative.
Yes.
Because the self-celebration of some photographers that are self-defining their works like artworks, I think is just a kind of bragging. I think is the right term, bragging.
Bragging, yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm.
I think is bad taste. I mean, I don't like this kind of behavior. I think people, the audience, the international audience, and your works will tell one day if you are an artist or not. And
Sure.
And producing artistic images, of course, is challenging. And I'm not saying that my works are artworks, but I'm just saying that to define the work of a photographer art is not just a matter of saying, okay, he has a strong portfolio, or maybe he technically is perfect. I think behind these works, we should see something more than not only the images. The feeling in photography today that I see with many guys, and in general, the trend is to make photography very commercial. And I think we are losing the target. I mean, landscape photography is not selling a product. Landscape photography for me is the research, a way to create something that I feel when I am in the field, and when I'm a scene that I pre-visualized, and or maybe later after I had an experience in the field, I have an idea to communicate something through that image. But that is landscape photography for me, or just have an experience out in nature and trying to, with your post-processing or just with your skills in the field, to communicate something to people, not just to boom, 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 publish 10 images every day just to feed the beast of the social media. That is very, I think is a bit wrong. I mean, there is nothing that is disputable, but I mean, it's just using an extreme behavior with something that needs time. I mean, for example, for a good wine, you need to wait, like for a good whiskey. Yeah, you can't just in 1 second have the product done. And I think landscape photography is the same. I mean, fine art landscape photography, not just reportage or wildlife photography, that is different. I mean, landscape photography, as we today, we are talking about a kind of photography that is definitely more artistic than photography in the past. My way of thinking about photography is more comparable to, do you know the concept about sublime and pastoral, for example, in the romantic paintings?
No, I have no idea. Don't know about you guys.
Well, it's a concept that was expressed. Maybe if you know the concept, it's better for me because I don't know how exactly to explain it in English. But the key concept was that the aesthetic concept established during the Romantic era was divided in two main categories, and one was the pastoral and the picturesque, and the other is sublime. The pastoral and picturesque was just a way of reproducing nature as a comfortable place for living in harmony with man. And the sublime is a way to represent the force of nature and like an imposing force that we fear. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think landscape photography today, I mean, the aesthetic concept that is used from many artists is that way. And you can't do that just in 1 second. You need to wait and work and find the proper condition. And after the conditions, you need the right day for processing, because not all the days are the same. And you need time, and you need the right mood and the right feeling. You need to be relaxed, and you need to be, or maybe just you need the right feeling that could be sadness or happiness. Depends what are you looking for.
Mm. Yeah. Very well said. Very well said.
Do you how do you find that particular mood just comes to you one day and you know exactly what image you're going to edit, or is it, I don't know, do you find yourself trying to get yourself into a certain, like, do you listen to music when you edit, or how do you get into that sort of?
Oh yes, music definitely is another element that for processing is very important for me.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes, for the technical part, when I'm just putting the raw files together, maybe I'm listening something that is more casual. Maybe it could be just a playlist on YouTube or on Spotify, something that is just comfortable and is helping me to work. Something happy, like maybe AC/DC or something like that. And then later, when the processing, the serious processing starts, I'm used to listen a lot of soundtracks or sometimes black metal. Depends what's the mood of the picture I had in mind, but definitely OST or maybe sometimes also classical music for me is a good soundtrack for processing my works.
So I can imagine you, when you're post-processing, listening to death metal and opera at the same time.
Yeah, but there are bands that are mixing the two genres together.
Yeah,
like Haggard is a band I think from Sweden, and they are like 30 people, and there is a
A busload of them.
It's a mix between death metal and classic music.
Oh my God. Yeah, I can visualize you sitting there.
Yeah, sure. I am.
Your head banging while you're doing your layers. Yeah.
Maybe sometimes I wear this helmet.
Awesome. Absolutely awesome.
Oh my God. You just frightened the hell out of me, Enrico. I'm quite scared.
This is the helmet of the Witch King Wangmar.
Yeah.
It's so interesting to hear you talk like that, because I can really see that in your images now. Not that I couldn't see it before, but I can put the face to the image now. It's so interesting to hear you say about having to be in the right mood, because some people just say, you shouldn't jump on an image straight away, blah, blah, blah. They never really explain why or what their thought processes are. It's almost like that's just what you do. So it's nice to hear you actually explain exactly why the thought process behind that.
Well, I think for me, the most challenging things is once it's happened during my career that I was forced to process picture for a job, for a commitment. And I think for me, it was very challenging because it's totally different. Like when you are in the right mood and one day you are at home and you say, okay, today I want to process a forest image. That is totally different. And maybe you can't apply your mood or your way of processing yet just to focus on the job. And at the same time, you have to show to your customer that it's you, but without overdoing. I think that is pretty challenging. Well, in the world of landscape photography, it's not very common because there aren't many works on commission, unfortunately. Yeah. But when it's happened, it has been complicated for me, much more than when I am in the right mood.
Yeah.
So almost feel like you're having to force it almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So do you, when you do you think of a particular shot or an idea? Do you think about the processing before you've taken the shot? Do you obviously you're pre-visualizing how you want a certain scene to look?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I was just saying, then you're sort of chasing them conditions to make it all merge together.
Yeah, of course. And there are shots that I pre-visualized, and I was focused on a certain kind of atmosphere, or when there is the right condition and you're able to pre-visualize and capture all the elements in the field, and then you have already your image defined in your mind, that is, of course, the best option.
Yeah.
Sometimes just you are working around because maybe the conditions are not perfect, and so it is possible that when you're in the field, you're just moving around, trying to find the composition, or just shooting the elements and then trying later to putting them together. Sometimes it's very rewarding because at the end, you're able to compose something that you had a vague idea in the field, and then you're able to put the pieces together, and sometimes it's just an epic fail.
Yeah, we all know about that one.
That's one thing, Enrico, that I've always been amazed, and one of the reasons why I'm such a big fan of your work is your composition. I would like to understand in your head, when you take a shot, there's so many different techniques that you use, but it's almost as though you pre-visualize a composition that when you actually put it in a frame and it's on the computer, you've achieved exactly what you wanted to, because you have such an acute understanding of how you want your composition to be. And I think so many of us photographers, we go out to a scene, we go, that looks good. We put the tripod out, we take the shot. When we get home, we worry about cropping or anything later on. But almost as though that you, when you're out on field, you know exactly how that is supposed to be composed in the way you want it to be. Is that correct in saying that?
I'm quite keen about composition when I'm in the field. I'm not just shooting randomly or finding the biggest piece of foreground to put in front of my wide angle.
For sure.
I love to move around and maybe sometimes just with my phone. And then I start to scout around the location, trying to find the best viewpoint. And if the terrain, the elements that I have in front of me are not enough, it is possible sometimes that I use some compositing technique in post-processing, just moving a bit elements. I'm not thinking about complete overhaul of the scene, but just maybe adjusting some things, or maybe moving a trunk, or just blending together two pictures to make the frame more natural and more harmonious. And the key is always to study the composition based on a concept that also in the composition, not only in the processing. Nowadays the trend is always to use extreme wide angles with giant elements. Of course, I'm using wide angles because I'm shooting a lot with 12 millimeters. But the concept of big flowers, no mid-ground and mountain, I think is just, okay, it's nice. We love the images of Ryan Dyer. He launched a beautiful trend like 10 years ago about giant flowers
For sure.
and mountains. But now I see that this is just a constant. I am a huge fan of Ryan. I'm not thinking about his work is not good.
No, he's a great. Yeah, he's very, very good at post-processing. There's no doubt about it.
In sometimes, especially, there is a huge difference for me between the works of Ryan Dyer and the works of many guys, for example, here in the Dolomites, because the landscape itself is completely different. Shooting a grand landscape in the United States or in Canada, the feeling is totally different, because maybe you can have a huge flower in front of you, then you have a beautiful mid-ground, and then there is maybe a lake, a river, and then you have the mountains at the end. That is epic. Yeah. When you're in the Dolomites, where the spaces are not the same, and you have this huge flower with the mountain that is just in the mid, like the pillar in the mid of the flowers. I think the composition it doesn't work in the same way, and I think the approach should be different. I matured this idea during the years. I did it in the past because, of course, I have some giant flowers in my portfolio, as everybody. But later, I developed a little different vision. I studied, for example, talking about Pierre's study that we mentioned before. He was European, and during his career, he made some trips into Europe, especially to the Swiss Alps. And I saw all his pictures, and the sense of landscape that I can feel watching his images is tremendous. I can breathe something. I can smell something when I watch his paintings. I have exactly the idea of the epicness of the place without using extreme elements in front of the foreground. Maybe there are elements, but are not 90% of the frame. I mean, and I think we should understand and learn from the masters of the past, because their technique in reading and develop the visual flow in the frame is just amazing. You don't need extreme lenses to reproduce that kind of landscape. Of course, it's complicated because they were painters, so they exploited all their artistry, adding fog, mist, and elements that are not easy to find, of course. But I mean, definitely. we can understand to exploit elements in just a little different way, a little more harmonious, more classic. But of course, it's just an idea, an approach. I mean, if you are in the field and you find a super nice foreground, okay, you can go for it. I mean, there's nothing wrong. The wrong thing for me is just to focus only on that subject. I mean, I can't shoot landscape if I don't have something enormous in front of me. I think that is limiting, not wrong.
Yeah.
Definitely. When you, oh God, I almost lost track of what I was going to say then. When you refer to, learning from people in the past, from artists in the past, I definitely agree with what you're saying there. And I think sometimes we can relate photography to, I don't know, sometimes there's a comparison to music. I mean, we can learn so much from our Mozarts and all that sort of stuff, and, beautiful, gifted artists, musicians. If we refer that to photography, I look at a lot of photography today. It's like pop music, the top 100. And it's something that just doesn't last, does it? Pop music doesn't last over time.
Well, I think
Mozart will last forever. And I think that we should relate that back to photography a lot and respect that.
Well, I think you touched 2 points that are pretty interesting. Talking about the comparison between photography and music. The first is that about plagiarism, that nowadays is a plug in the world of landscape photography. I was victim myself many times. I'm not talking about people that is inspired by me, because of course I'm teaching, I'm selling videos on my website, and I'm not disappointed by people that are using my workflow.
Well, you've got to expect that if you sell YouTube tutorials, don't you?
If I find a guy that is writing an email to me and saying, Enrico, thank you, with your techniques, I made this landscape with your workflow, and I have the mood that I wanted. Okay, I'm happy. The problem is when a professional or a
professional or Instagrammer?
I mean, in general, people that is making money selling something.
Okay, all right.
And they are trying to exploit your work. That is pretty bad, and unfortunately is a big issue today. But I don't want to talk too much about this, even if it's something that is truly disappointing. And because I've saw a lack of professionalism, and I could talk about many things about this topic, but definitely a podcast is not the right place. Probably a good dinner altogether could be better.
Don't worry, mate. We're going to meet up in Glencoe and get drunk after we go taking photos, and we'll let it go. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll let it go there.
And,
right, going to go to a quick break, if that's okay, because we're just running out of time with this one, so we'll go to a quick ad break and we'll come right back.
If you're watching this, then I assume you're someone who is passionate about both photography and the natural world. Over the last decade, I'm sure you've seen the incredible growth in photography. Everyone has a camera these days, and everyone wants a beautiful nature photo to share with the world. Unfortunately, the passion to capture that image often overrides thoughtfulness. Wildflower fields are being trampled and destroyed. Delicate, unknown locations are being widely advertised, bringing crowds of people, transforming wild places into urban spaces. Regulations, private property, and the well-being of wildlife are ignored in the pursuit of an image for Instagram. If such things weigh heavily on you, consider joining Nature First, the movement for responsible nature photography. This is a global initiative to help recover the role of nature photographers as caretakers and ambassadors of the natural world. There are no membership fees, no ads, no gimmicks, just an opportunity to be part of this global initiative of nature photographers dedicated to caring for the natural world. You can learn more at naturefirstphotography.org.
Yeah, we were talking about the comparison between photography and music, if I'm not
Yes, that's right.
Well, the first thing that for me was pretty common, that in music is the same as the plagiarism, and the other one is another concept about, you mentioned Mozart, and of course great artists from the past, also artists of modern days. One thing that I see and I hear many times, that there are a lot of professionals that are saying everybody can be artists. Well, I think that is not true for me. I mean, you can learn, you can make perfect photographs, but there isn't any written rule that you could be an artist. You could be a good photographer, but it is not obvious that you could be an artist. And as I said before, I mentioned this concept because I think is a good point for me. And compared to music, okay, there are different kind of music, and always linked to the concept of plagiarism. All the guys that are starting to play music, of course, they are starting from covers, just copying the masters, and then later they start to make their own music. Mm-hmm. And that is the difference, that there are people that are able to write music that is just immortal, and people that are not able to do that, just to play the game. And that is another good point for me, that another similitude that we should take in mind about the difference of these two things. And of course, there are genre of photography that are more catchy and are more commercial, and genre of photography that are not for everybody, like music. Black metal definitely is not for everybody. It's not like Lady Gaga. So you can't expect to have the same like and followers of Lady Gaga.
That's for sure.
Playing black metal. It's the same in photography. I can't expect to have the same followers of Daniel Corden if I'm making abstracts or weird things that are very immersive, and you need to work with your imagination. I mean, different kind of things, different feeling, is very personal. There is nothing wrong or right. Of course, the excess of business in photography, selling videos and workshops, has ruined a bit the passion of at the landscape of the beauty of nature. And probably Matt was mentioning this concept just a few minutes ago when he mentioned the comparison between photographers that are making commercial things and photographers that are more linked to a concept.